this video, we're going to paint a dungeon tile. Or rather, we're going to paint the second coat gray. Really? We're just doing gray? Gray. Hey guys, what's going on? So this is Michael here. I am getting ready to paint the dungeon tile. We'll get the gray coat on this. So first things first, let me say for those of you who have been to my channel before, you may have noticed that I rebranded. So I used to be called Second Life Productions for years. So the channel's now called Michael Makes Everything, and I've dropped the this pen name. I used to go by Kale, which was a character that I created years and years ago in a game that I used to run online, but seemed kind of silly to keep up with it. So yeah, Michael Makes Everything. That's the channel now. So you know, same kind of videos, little bit of every hobby and obsession that I have. But on to today's videos. So today, that is the black base coat dried up on our dungeon tile piece. And you notice, I don't know that I pointed it out on the last video, but I got a nice piece of cork on the bottom so that when I throw it down on a table, it doesn't mar up the table if it's slid around. But we are going to paint this up with our gray coat, which is the second coat in this process. So the paint, I got lazy. I was going to do this yesterday, but it's dried overnight, so it's nice and dry for us. You notice that this paint dries with just a slight bit of shine, but it's perfect when we get the dry brush on. So we are going to change out from our black paint to our base gray. That is what we want to use for today. And we are going to also switch out from a number 6 brush to a number 4, which is just a little bit smaller, but it'll give us just a little bit more control. And kind of, with the exception of the dry brush, as I do each step, I kind of go to a smaller brush. That's just how I tend to work. So we'll give our paint a little shake. And put a good amount in our cup there. So now if I'm going to be working on a ton of these tiles, instead of using these little ceramic dishes, I use a wet palette. The wet palettes are nice because I can kind of keep the paint from drying out. So if you notice, as I'm painting, I'm trying to load about half of the brush, and if you can see there, as I'm painting this gray, I'm kind of skimming it across the surface, but I'm leaving the black down in the grooves. Okay, if some of the gray gets into those grooves, it's not the end of the world. It just adds to kind of the randomness of this, but that's what I want, is I want that black to stay down in those lines. It's what gives this the definition. But cover the whole surface of these tiles, or of these little bricks and that kind of thing, with your gray coat. Some of the gray has a texture to it, so it's not going to want to cover, and you just want to take your brush and bop it into that little bit of texture to fill that in. The reason why we're filling in the texture on the surface and we're not just skimming across that as well, because you can see real easily on that piece, you see right there how it didn't fill in. We're just going to take our brush and we're going to fill that in so that it's solid. Our other colors are going to highlight that kind of texture. All we want to see is the gray kind of cover those flat surfaces, and then the other colors will give us that little bit of definition. So I'm going to add a little bit of gray onto these sides, the edges, because I don't want all of that black. It just looked too black to me on the first one of these that I did. And I'm still leaving just a little bit kind of at the bottom. And we'll hit this edge right here. Now this is a wet brush, okay? We don't want to dry brush this. That would be way too thin. And by dry brush I mean we don't want to get all of the paint off of this brush. I think I put too much paint in this little dish here I'm gonna have left over. I try to judge it with the paint that I put in the dish just so that I don't waste, but yeah, it's at the end of the world. So again, the little divots in the middle of these little stones that our skim is not picking up, I'm just going back there with the tip of my brush and just putting a little bit of gray paint in them. It's okay to miss one or two. That adds kind of a random dark effect to this, but don't miss a lot or it's going to look a little odd, at least for my technique. Get right down here along the bottom edge. I'm going to make sure that I paint up where this piece overhangs a little bit. Because you notice right along that edge it kind of overhangs the base tile just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and we'll set it down and we'll get across the top here. Dry out my brush real quick, and then like I showed you all in the previous video, take a moment and shape your bristles back to a point, lay brush flat. Let's see if I can do this without wiping all the paint off. And that is the gray paint painted onto our corner dungeon wall piece. Pretty cool, right? So I'll have to get another light so that I can light it from this direction. That way it's a little easier for you guys to see. But that's all there is to it. So we're gonna let this dry at least for half an hour before we do the next step. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and you got any questions, leave them for me in the comments.
Remember, if you like our video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see more great videos like this.